Yeah, it's going to have to move back.
How's everybody's lunch today?
There you go.
Right on. So again, you're not here to listen to me, but let me bring up a few people. First, I can mention a couple of people, and then we'll bring up our panelists. Because if you're in the front of the room, make sure that you have your hair looking good in the back, because we have David Camp and Ron Futrell. I'm sorry, I blew right for a minute. And they're going to be putting us on the news this evening. So again, fluff up the back of your hair, make sure it looks good if you're anywhere near the front of the stage. All right, because this is going to be your moment to shine. Your hairstylist is going to be really, really happy if you did this. All right, that said, let's introduce our three panelists. Chris Matthews, I'm sorry. Sorry. He was at Channel 8 too, wasn't he? All right, I'm sorry. Chris Matthews from Channel 8. All right, so hey, let me bring up my panelists today, our panelists today. And in no particular order, we're going to start with Lisa Motley, who is a good friend of LVIII. That's right, listen to all that boring crowd. She is currently the Senior Director of Sports and Special Events for the LVCBA. That's right, we sure do. Before that, she was also Director of Marketing for Las Vegas Motor Speedway, where she had 1,400 event days. That's a lot of event days. And she was also Marketing Digital Media Specialist for Las Vegas events. She got to do all sorts of cool things like Wrangler Finals Rodeo and USA Basketball. And she's a 22-year Las Vegan, I read somewhere. Well, I think you might have me beat. Joining her, I'm pretty sure we have him beat, is Sam Joffray. Sam Joffray is the Executive Director of the Las Vegas Super Bowl Host Committee. He's also the founder of Concept Matters. And among his clients are the past 25 Super Bowls, as well as the Louisiana Super Bowl, Superdome, the New Orleans Saints, Playboy, Enterprises, and the College Football Playoff Group. And last but not least, our moderator today, Jeremy Aguero, someone who's certainly not afraid to pay money for time in Las Vegas. He just finished sometime the Las Vegas Raiders, the Chief Operations and Analytics Officer. Before that, he was 25 years as a Principal Analyst of Applied Analysis. I don't think I have that right. Did I say that right? Yeah, all right, I'm trying. Fourth generation Las Vegas, so he's got me beat too. And Starling Gray every day. He has degrees from UNLV and specifically from the William S. Boyd School of Law. Cool. So I told our photographer we let the guys all stand together for a quick photo. Well, me too. So without further ado, I'm going to give it to Jeremy.
Thank you very much. I'm mic'd up, so I think I'm all right. I want to begin by just expressing my gratitude, not only to the folks that have agreed to join the panel, because my job here is relatively simple. I'm supposed to ask them questions and make sure that they keep us on time. But I also want to express my thanks to everybody sitting in this room. And I am mindful of what it means to be on the front lines of our hospitality industry. You all are the heart and soul of what makes this community what it is. And I'm mindful of how wonderful of an opportunity it is to be here with all of you today. And frankly, as we sit here in 2022, after we think about what it was like in 2020 and 2021, to see so many familiar faces and be back talking about all the incredible things that we're doing in Las Vegas, and we're about to host a Super Bowl along with everything, is just incredibly exciting to me, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity. So, I have two remarkable people up here. And they had some introductions, and you know, I'm assuming everybody here probably knows Lisa by the howls and hoots that went on when she got introduced. But there's almost nothing in sports that happens in Las Vegas that Lisa isn't involved in. Right? Her title, Senior Director, and she works with that guy right there, Brian Ghost, and Steve Hill, which we all kind of know in terms of the community. But we're talking about how things actually happen. We're talking about who's there, bringing everyone together, making sure that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed. Right? Whether it's something that's traditional or certainly esports, which she will always remind me of, Lisa is part of all of that. right? You probably know her as the person who's sitting in the meetings. You probably know her as the person who's always around and these kind of things is really involved. But she's also the person that's behind the scenes making it all happen. Really, really excited to share stage with you. And this guy, I only got to know relatively recently, right? Sam Joffray. And how lucky are we as a community to have somebody with this guy's resume, this guy's pedigree, if you will, coming in to our community to help us put on what is going to be the biggest and best and greatest Super Bowl in NFL history. Right? That is what this community was dealing with. I realize I'm throwing red meat to a bunch of lions, right? But that is what our community was built to do, right? Is what we do better than anybody else anywhere in the United States. We host people. And as much as we like to talk about, I like to talk about how important it is to have Las Vegas be an NFL city, that's pretty cool. It's pretty great for the NFL to have Las Vegas as an NFL city. Right? Lisa was incredibly involved. Brian, our folks at LVCBA was in terms of bringing the NFL draft and having that here. One of, if not the greatest draft that the NFL has ever had. Pretty remarkable overall. The commission was very excited about what was ultimately produced. But now, we're talking about having the best event there. We're talking about the Super Bowl. Sam's history, Sam's capability, and I've had the opportunity to work with him as a member of the host committee executive board, right, for the past several months. It's been, 6 months now? Been working on it now. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as we go forward. But I think it's really important to understand the decisions that are being made, how we're raising money, what we're doing from a volunteer standpoint. It starts with this guy and his vision and his capability and building a team and putting office space. We are going to be the center of the sports universe in February of 2024. Right? It says not to put any pressure on him. But that's his job to make sure that we get it right. So I want to thank this organization. I'm so proud to be part of this community, and I want to thank these two folks that are going to tell us a great deal about what it is we're doing and how we're getting it done. But I'd like to start with just a little bit of background. I'd like to talk for a moment about this campaign that the LVCBA has created called the greatest arena on earth. Right? Mark, well, you've probably seen it, you've probably heard it. Let's go ahead and roll the video.
In Las Vegas, it is always on. We're talking Motor Coliseum meets gridiron, meets Field of Dreams, meets cold ice, meets ultimate fights, meets neon lights. It's hat tricks, Hail Marys, and dunks, and pit stops. It's 8 seconds of glory, and extra innings, and go time, multiple overtimes. From pre-game to after game to post-game. Vegas is the greatest arena on earth.
Not bad. Not bad at all. Right? We know ourselves as the entertainment capital of the world. We know that, right? But this evolution, this is something that a decade ago, right, I don't think any of us envisioned. Right? We knew that we had some sports, right? Well, those who remember the heyday of the Running Rebels and those type of things. I remember watching Randall Cunningham throw touchdowns at the old Sam Boyd Stadium and all those type of things. But I don't think we ever could have imagined what it would be today. And so if we can just start thinking about how far we've come relative to this, right? You just look at those logos that are up there. I mean, we stack ourselves up against anybody for any reason. Lisa, let me just ask the question, right? When you look at this and you think about that theme of how far we've come, just talk to us a little bit about how we got here.
Well, thank you all for having us again today. It really hard to talk after you. I mean, you're just so impressive. I love you. So I'm sure it's safe to do as well. We're here because of each and every one of you in this room. We had a site this week that we'll talk about a little bit later, and between Brian and Steve and even John Schreiber on our team, you guys make selling the destination so easy. I just have the privilege to be the one kind of out front, and while it's easy, it's still 80 hours a week. But again, it's all because of everybody in this room and your willingness to make hospitality part of your DNA. It's what we do every day, and we just continuously raise the bar. It also comes down to the investment in infrastructure in our destination. We don't build Allegiant Stadium. We're not going to host some of these major marquee events that we're going to talk about, especially the Super Bowl. And really relationships. I think I've got relationships in the majority of this room, which I truly value, but relationships have gotten to this point. So NFL, for example, yes, we hosted the draft. Yes, it took 5 years to put on the better than perfect draft, which will be my next tattoo, which we can go to TikTok if anybody wants to do that with me. So we did the draft, which got us to the Pro Bowl, which potentially may get additional Pro Bowls here in the destination, which led to the Super Bowl. So I know Brian hates when I use the term crawl, walk, run, but really had to crawl, walk, run. And I want to give a shout out to Jenny Bunchu, who is our sports marketing and special events manager. She keeps my crazy train on the tracks, and she's also responsible for our youth and amateur, which we will also talk about. But it's those kind of events, the grassroots, that gets us to the point where we are on a global stage and can host the Super Bowl. 10 years ago, no, we're not going to have this. I'm a kid from Minneapolis. I grew up in a sports town. I come to Las Vegas. I love the casino industry. That's where my bread and butter was. And then I had the opportunity to go to Las Vegas events, where I was able to work on stuff like the Ranking National Finals Rodeo, USA Basketball, Mountain West Pac-12, go over to Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and now we've got NASCAR, right? We've got EDC. And then, through testament to the LVCVA, I didn't realize that this was the dress I actually wore on my interview 5.5 years ago. It was actually more in case I had to break up a fight with them and be the referee, kind of like homage, you know. Really had the opportunity now to come to the LVCVA and put everything together. You know, they hired a female 5.5 years ago to run sports, which, you know, we're breaking glass ceilings. Talking to Lisa Motley, who's going to be our new chief sales officer too. Looking forward to working with you. Las Vegas ballparks, again, with the Aviators, why we just win the best ballpark 3 of the last 4 years. Allegiant Stadium. It's the infrastructure, it's you, it's your passion for this city that has allowed us to have this, and that's kind of where we've been.
It feels like a lot of this, you use the word infrastructure, right? It feels like a lot of what we've done so far is sort of setting the table for this idea of hosting something like the Super Bowl, right? Being on this global stage. Sam, can we just start by having a conversation about what the host committee is, and as we think about this stage being set, this infrastructure being here, what the host committee is and what its role is, because I've got 1,000 questions for you. Obviously, we can't get through them all, but I know what the host committee is. I don't know that everybody sort of knows what that host committee is and why it's important and why we've led up to this idea. Can you maybe just give everybody the brief overview?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of these major events in this ecosphere of Final Four, Super Bowl, and just recently now the NBA All-Star Game require, as a host city, it's great, a separate entity host committee. It's not a task force, it's not a bunch of people just sitting around a table, rubber stamping stuff and approving things. It's an actual, in our case, less than 2-year effort, full-time staff, full-time office space that is charged with meeting all the obligations that we made in the bid to host Super Bowl. Spent all of 2021 working with Lisa side by side. I like to call it, like I said, we book them and we cook them. So the first phase was getting the bid awarded, putting together the bid, all those obligations, and then as soon as the NFL owners voted to award in December, we had to create the 501c6, which becomes the entity that signs all the documents, signs the contracts, goes on the hook, raises the money, and then fulfills all those other obligations. There's things we have to pay for. Yes, we have to pay for stadium, staffing, and transportation, and safety, and security, and hotel rooms. But as big of a piece of the bucket are things we have to do. The programs we have to manage. Our goal is to make sure that we have a lasting impact here in Las Vegas for the Super Bowl. We want to make sure that, on Monday after the Super Bowl happens, we want to make sure that our metric for success is that everybody is saying we can't wait for the Super Bowl to return to Las Vegas. And that falls into 2 groups. One's the NFL universe of the NFL owners and teams and the sponsors and the media. We want them on Monday leaving on the plane saying can't wait to come back to Vegas for Super Bowl. But as importantly, we need to make sure that Las Vegas is saying we can't wait for the Super Bowl to come back to New Orleans. So it's got to be a great great experience for the hotels, for the DMCs, for the community, for the youth, for everybody involved in our local ecosphere. So we are the nonprofit entity that's charged with raising the money to do all this stuff, but also the sweat equity involved in it. And that takes a full-time staff of about 12 people. We're going to be at very quickly here. We've got an office space opened up very recently.
What do you got, 18 months left? No problem, you got it.
Normally, the bid cycle from the time you're awarded the event to the time you host it for Super Bowl is 4 years. I think I saw it done once in 3 years when they had to relocate Super Bowl. This is Las Vegas. We can do anything. So we're doing this 18 months now. It was 2 years when we were doing it. For quite a while there, I had the luxury of saying, we're going to do it in less than 2 years. We're going to do this in less than 2 years. And then I woke up about a week ago and said, I got to change that speaking point. We're going to be now in less than 18 months. So yeah, it's a big undertaking, but we're excited. I couldn't be more thrilled to, if there was any city in the country that I would look at and said, I want to work on the Super Bowl there full time for 2 years. It's Las Vegas. It's going to be like when the Marvel universe and the DC universe finally come together. It took this long to get the NFL in Las Vegas to be part of the same conversation even. We had in our office space, we're putting up some privacy frost on some of the offices, and we said, well, while we're doing it, let's just do a timeline of sports, and we're thinking about different timelines to do. One was, let's do a timeline of all the Super Bowls. I was like, maybe. We ended up deciding on doing a timeline of the NFL in Las Vegas, and it starts with the Cro-Magnon man down here, and it flatlines all the way until the NFL voted to move the Raiders here. And then the stadium construction started, the stadium was built, Pro Bowl, draft, and it's amazing to see how much has happened in such a short period of time. And hopefully, of course, it's
Phenomenal. You know, Lisa, as we transition to the next slide, one of the statistics that you shared with me, look, I live in a world of ones and zeros. It's what I know, right? And we think about the economic impact associated with the Super Bowl, right? We think about the fact that it's likely to be the single largest economic event in the history of Las Vegas, right? It's going to be that, right? And we talk about the fact that Minnesota had the Super Bowl, it had 175,000 people there, right? It was pretty great, they had a great economic impact. We had 350,000 people in town. We didn't even have the Super Bowl for the same week, right?
It was 14 degrees below zero.
Yeah, well, whatever. Yeah, I know where you want to go. I get it, right? We get it. The idea that we're going to be doing this is incredible, but even more important than that is the statistic you shared. And that was not long ago. People that were coming to town for sports-related activity, but this was the primary motivation, was the 8th highest thing. It was number 8 on the list of why people were coming. What's that number today?
2.
The second biggest reason for people coming to Vegas is to come to see a sporting event or some other type of special event. That is pretty incredible. So we think about that, and we think about not only what we've done, the slide we just looked at, but the opportunities that are currently in the pipeline. Can you just share with folks some of the things that are coming up that we know are happening, or we expect to happen, or we're working on sort of going forward?
Sure. So I think a few of you know that we actually do this college mentorship program at UNLV because we really want to invest in the future of sports and creating jobs for them to stay in our marketplace. Marketing Las Vegas is a skill, it's a passion, and that's when we heard that stat for the first time. Steve Hill shared that with us. And I turned to Jenny and I said, you know what, this is one of those situations where we're always going to be the bridesmaid, and we're okay. We're actually in the bridal party now. We went from 8 to 2. And obviously trade shows and conventions are number 1, and we're probably not going to touch that. And you know what, we're good with that. I would like to thank Jen Kashui. Always a pleasure to work with you. She has pitched, I know we're going to talk a little bit about Formula One, and I know there's Formula One in the crowd. I think Tyler and Samantha are back in there in the room. When we went to Jennifer with this topic, we always come at you and talk about sports and what we're doing. We want to make you part of this investment in the conversation. How does this impact you? How can you get involved? So we are going to talk about that. I'm going to very briefly talk about F1 because we pitched Jennifer at the LVIII, and we are going to host a dedicated Formula One sports event as well. So we can investigate how do we get you involved in that? What is their game plan? I know I'm not allowed to give out any dates, but I understand in 3 weeks from now we might be figuring out when our announcement of the date is, maybe tickets on sale. But Formula One was really Steve Hill's brainchild, and really that, how many people watch Drive to Survive? Okay, well, I totally recommend it because I've now become like a little cougar. But Drive to Survive really put F1 in the United States on the map too, with Miami and Austin. We're thrilled. We should be hosting about 170,000 people in the destination November of 2023, about 400,000 room nights. It is part of the 3-year plan. I think Jim McMichael told me that they're grading the paddock area over where the old nightclub used to be. 3 years is just the tip of the iceberg, right? There's plans for that to be a longer-term play. Thank you to Energy Resorts, Wynn, and Caesars for being founding partners, and I'm sure all of you are going to want to be involved in F1. So that's just an incredible opportunity. We're a little nervous about the bandwidth of F1 in November of 23, and then turn around the most epic Super Bowl in history in February, but this is what we do and we love it. International soccer. Did anybody attend any of the 3 international exhibition games that we hosted the last couple weeks? So that is super fun for us. El Clasico, Real Madrid, Barcelona, 61,299 attendees, majority from out of market. Saw a lot of pictures. Mr. Yost and Mr. Hill and I were actually out of the country for something we'll talk about in a second. But CONCACAF, we hosted the CONCACAF Gold Cup final last year, sold out audience. We are in current discussions with CONCACAF on 23, 24, and 25, and not just men's soccer, women's soccer. We believe that women's sports is at the forefront of everything we should be working on, so we are having those conversations. Les Tap, Las Vegas by Tour de France. Yes, it's the Tour de France brand. It will be an amateur cycling event that will go through Red Rock next Mother's Day weekend. Everything we do in sports programming is we look to put them on need times during the destination. Mother's Day weekend is a need time for us. Or now the new tactic is driving rate compression. So putting events on top of a SEMA. How do we drive up the ADR? So we are in conversations with Les Tap and the Tour de France to potentially bring some sort of North American men or women's professional race or stage race here to Las Vegas. It will be the only North American stop. So the sky's the limit with Les Tap and Tour de France. And the company that owns it is ASO, Maury Sports Organization. They also own Dakar, an off-road race. And again, back to those relationships, it was our mid-400 people who told me about it. So when we were meeting with the family, we brought up off-road racing too, and now they're part of the World Rallycross Tour. So we're hoping to bring that to the destination soon. EJ, I know you're here from UFC. Again, shout out to Jenny. So we always host UFC International Fight Week. This was the 10th anniversary, and we are never one to rest on our laurels. We added a youth and amateur component to it called the Ultimates. So the UFC is looking to grow their fan base as well. Jenny was able to secure USA Boxing, USA Weightlifting, and International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So we had about 8,000 youth and amateur competitors on top of the UFC Expo. So they got to see the Expo, and people could see them competing. Next year is the 30th anniversary of the UFC. And I know they've got some grandiose plans, maybe different venues, and we are planning to grow the Ultimates even further. NCAA. So about 2018, 2019, Jenny and I, she left my locker in war rooms, locked in war rooms for about 3 months. We submitted 110 bids on behalf of the destination. When the NCAA and SCOTUS announced that Las Vegas could be in the mix, we didn't take that lightly. We went for broke. We have been awarded 9 championships. We will host the first 3 next year, including the men's regional basketball. Pretty excited about that. Women's bowling, as well as the D1 men's golf regional. So that portal will open again next year. Oh, right on top of Formula 1 and the Super Bowl. Right. So yes, and then this one is probably something different that you probably never thought of. So yes, it says Paris Olympics 24. Don't forget about LA Olympics in 28. Jenny's been tasked with putting together an entire strategy for the Olympics. That could mean hosting world championships. It could be training sites. It could be Olympic time trials or Olympic trials. And then when they come to LA, we're in the same time zone. So how do they become hubs here in Las Vegas? So really back to that crawl, walk, run, if we do a gymnastics collegiate event which we're looking at over CBS in January next year, they're going to then help us with the Olympic bid. So it's really how do we use our relationships and leverage the destination, everything you guys, the platform, give us to sell to bring these kind of events to the destination.
Look, it doesn't escape me that as we look at this slide, right, and we look at these, most of these, almost every one of them are international in nature. Right? This is the one area of our tourism that's had a difficult time getting back. Obviously, we're striving to get back to 40 million visitors. We're doing a lot better than we did a year ago, and certainly better than we were 2 years ago. But putting us back on an international platform is a pretty big thing, and these are really important. And it seems like we're kind of just getting started, right? I mean, look, Sam, we're going to talk a lot about the Super Bowl in just a second, but this is all just laying a platform for what we're trying to do. I mean, what are these priorities? What's next in terms of what the LVCBA is trying to accomplish?
So we all know that I don't work in PR because I probably talk too much. Because my favorite thing to do in this world is talk about Las Vegas. And so I'm not going to try to let anything out of the bag, but I mean, potentially we could be looking to host an NCAA Final Four. I can tell you that we have submitted a bid to host in 2027 and 2031, one of those years. And we did make it to the next round of that selection process. We are diligently and feverishly submitting our documentation. Big thanks to all of you who are part of that, the hotel group blocks, the venues, Legion Stadium as well. Hope to know our fate in November, but I think we're all fairly confident that the NCAA would be foolish to not select Las Vegas for a Final Four, potentially a WrestleMania, right? We've got the beautiful facility of Legion, so potentially that.
Sign me up.
Right?
I might participate.
I was lucky enough to run 2 host committees for WrestleMania in 4 years, and that is by far one of the most fun and valuable events for a destination that will shock you, that you will have no idea. I still have hoteliers and restaurateurs come up and say, when is WrestleMania coming back? It was our best weekend ever. And for a culture that loves to dress up and celebrate and be able to walk down the street in costume, what better to say?
He's looking at you, Paul, when he said that too.
Yeah, they will love Las Vegas, and you'll love WrestleMania.
So potentially a Final Four, potentially a Women's Final Four, potentially a WrestleMania, and then again, back to infrastructure. So now we're building MSG Sphere, and I think I read that U2 might be a residency. Whoever would have thought that U2 was going to do a residency in Las Vegas? And then the Oak Theater. So I mean, are we opening ourselves up now to potentially be home to an NBA or MLS franchise? I would venture against the guess. That's probably what's next on the horizon. And I know this is kind of where we're going to segue into but now we're at the Super Bowl, and how do we get additional Super Bowls? And I guess I'd be remiss if we didn't walk through real quick. We worked about 13 months behind the scenes on this NFL Super Bowl bid. And I remember the day that I was told that Sam Joffray was being hired, and they basically threw Sam and I to the deep end and said, swim, and you're best friends. And Sam has been one of the best things professionally and personally for me through that experience. Because you're the only two who sit in a room and realize what has gone on. And we were driving to the stadium for the announcement, and we both just had to take a deep breath. Like, now you hand it over. Like we built the race car, and now Sam's going to drive it. So really appreciate the opportunity to learn behind the scenes. And Sam's not just the Super Bowl host committee or my confidant and top man Lunch. He actually will help me through these other bids. He'll walk me through budgets. He'll tell me what I need to look for, what are the pitfalls. So it's really not just the Super Bowl host committee executive director. It's really just great for the destination in general. And I think we've actually received some business because of your tutelage.
Well, what's great is that all these logos that you see up on the screen that you walked through before, they kind of become the Pied Piper for all the amateur events that Jenny's working on and all the other events. They look to, if you can host a Super Bowl, you can host F1, you can host our amateur championship here, and then that becomes your bread and butter as well, to fill in between.
So Sam, why don't you fill in some of the blanks? Tell people what does it take to bring a Super Bowl to the city? I mean, Lisa talked about the work. More people in rooms, and it's just terrible. It's tough to work for over there. But what does it take?
Well, it takes the organization of the community to come together and say we want to have it. So it took, in this specific case, it took the Convention Visitors Authority's efforts. It took the Raiders' support. It did take a new stadium, Doug. So, to have a team in the stadium, you have to have those two things to do a Super Bowl. But the stadium becomes kind of the impetus for getting the invitation to bid. So you get that first invite to bid, then you've got to have the tourism community stand behind it. You've got to have the corporate community come to the table to help raise the money. We're looking at north of $50 million worth of obligations that Lisa and I made during the bid process, and that's probably why they talked people sticking around for 2 years to make sure that I could fulfill those obligations. And yes, the Raiders play a very big role in it. Obviously, the host team has to make a lot of accommodations. The stadium has to make a lot of accommodations. Everybody in this room probably was asked at one point or another to help be part of the hotel block or to help maybe with a fan trip in the future. So it takes the entire tourism community and the leadership of municipal leaders that are willing to step up and say, we got this in the public safety front. So it's been said a few times today, it takes a village to raise a Super Bowl.
So we got it, right? I mean, everybody come together, the community, we have incredible folks that have worked on it. What comes with it? I mean, I realize there's the next 18 months of preparation, and you talked a little bit about that, but everybody focuses on the Super Bowl itself, right? This 3-4 hour event that's going to take place. But it's so much more than that. You've got things leading up the entire week, all kinds of investments in infrastructure, events that are happening. Can you talk a little bit about what the lead up will look like and maybe focus on that week of the Super Bowl and what it's going to mean for the city?
Well, one thing's for sure, at 3:22 p.m. on Sunday, February 11th, the NFL's going to kick off the game. That's going to happen no matter what. Our job is to help make sure that we get to that point, and to make sure we actually get past that point where everybody that's leaving town is also had as incredible an experience as possible. Over the next 18 months, we're going to recruit, manage, and hopefully retain 9,000 volunteers to help with the effort. Hopefully that becomes a legacy of Super Bowl, that we have a nice, robust volunteer program with 9,000 people who had the best time of their life and want to do it again when Final Four is here. We have to host and entertain 6,000 members of the media that will be here broadcasting nonstop. Radio, TV, podcasts, print. We'll manage a media center for all those 6,000 members of the media. And we'll spend a good bit of time that week making sure that we get those positive messages in the national and international media that Las Vegas is a great place to play. It's also a great place to live and work. So we'll try to take advantage of the economic development opportunities that come along as well. So yeah, there's a direct economic impact. There's invaluable, immeasurable media exposure that comes with the Super Bowl. We tried, some of the best people in the world try to put a media value on the number of positive impressions that are out there about this destination. And it's staggering. I think at some point everybody just kind of gives up and says it's more than this number or more than that number. So yeah, we've got to manage volunteer programs, we have to manage the media, we have to manage community programs for the youth. We'll have a $3 million legacy grant program where we'll work with local nonprofits and identify a lot of the good work that's being done in the community. Try to bring the Super Bowl spotlight on those close to a grant program that the NFL will help us match and our sponsors will hopefully help match, and celebrate dozens of nonprofits that are doing great work in the community. We're going to have a Business Connect program where we will introduce, especially as a first-time destination, we want to introduce probably everybody in this room is part of this ecosphere, but an RFP process for all the work that's being contracted out by not just the NFL, but also their contractors, their sponsors, their broadcast partners. So we'll have an official RFP process that focuses on women and minority-owned businesses, LGBT-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, to try and make sure that everybody has an opportunity to bid on the business of Super Bowl at the end of the day. And ourselves included, our discretionary funds will be for that program as well. It'll include a number of workshops and seminars to help folks that maybe have never responded to an NFL scale RFP, where we can help make sure that they're best positioned to try and compete.
Lisa wants to add something.
I want to make a selfish plug here. So the LBCDO oversees the volunteer portal. We currently have 8,500 volunteers in there. We are going to open that portal up now for conventions as well, to service those folks. But if you all would like to get your organizations involved in the volunteer program, please reach out. I've got a bunch of business cards, or I can send out my information. We can actually segment that database, and we can track that it was Caesars Entertainment, and they supplied this many volunteers, this many hours, so you can have some corporate social responsibility. But we'd love to help with the retainment and recruitment effort through business as well.
So Sam, just give us a preview of what the event day and the couple of days leading up to the event's going to look like around the city.
Yeah, I think the high points, everything kind of officially kicks off on Monday night of Super Bowl week. Pro Bowl obviously is the day before. Monday night will be opening night, they call it. It is the media day. It is where all 6,000 members of the media get their first chance to put a microphone in front of the players. They do 2 sessions. They do an AFC session followed by an NFC session. And it is a circus. It's a free-for-all. The first time they'll get asked every question about the game to what they're listening to on their iPods. So you'll have not just sports media, e-entertainment, and all the entertainment and news media will be there. So that kind of kicks off the week on Monday night. Tuesday night, we'll do our own host committee media party for those same 6,000 members of media. And that'll be our opportunity to show the best of Vegas. I can't tell you how many stories come out of that media party. Many of them are broadcasting live from it, but the next day, hopefully everybody's writing about it and how amazing it was. We'll feature the best of Vegas at that party, whether it's food, whether it's music, whether it's entertainment, interactive elements, and hopefully in a really, really iconic location that we'll talk about for the entire week. We'll follow that up with some VIP media events on Wednesday for a smaller audience and more influential media. That whole week, the NFL will be producing the NFL Experience, which is a fan-friendly, ticketed event with a lot of interactives for kids, autograph sessions, and merchandise sales. That goes on all week long. Then you get into the weekend, there are a number of NFL official events. NFL Honors on Thursday night is a broadcast honor show. They kind of mimic the ESPYs and have their own award show on Thursday. Red carpet event on Thursday night. Friday night you'll see we probably won't be invited, but there will be an NFL owners party on Friday night. It's a pretty big to do. Saturday night has kind of become an open night. The NFL's kind of embraced having a Saturday night for all other things. So we'll have host committee parties that night. But that's the night you'll see Nike hosting a party. You'll see Shaquille O'Neal hosting a party. You'll see broadcasters hosting stuff. So Saturday night is going to be all over the city. I think you'll be hard pressed not to feel the impact of some special event on Saturday night for Super Bowl. Again, Sunday's the game, and then Monday is us trying to get everybody home to the airport and happy with a smile on their face.
So, I mean, obviously everybody here is in the hospitality industry, at least most are directly or indirectly. You know, when we ask the question, how do they get involved? How do they take advantage of this? Well, being involved as part of the Super Bowl committee, but also, where are the opportunities for the folks sitting in this room to be able to take advantage of the fact that we're going to have this event right here in our backyard?
Yeah, a number of ways to be engaged. Like I said, our host committee is made up of about 11 subcommittees. We're going to be recruiting some of the best professionals in each one of the areas of obligations of our bids. We'll have a transportation committee, we'll have a media and PR committee, we'll have an events committee, government, community affairs committees. So there'll be a lot of community engagement on the committee level. The volunteer program, the 9,000 volunteers we talked about as well, is definitely not only an individual opportunity, but a group volunteer opportunity as well for employers. We have a sponsorship program. We'd love to be able to have everybody in this room engaged as a sponsor. We know that not everybody can afford those extra zeros that come with that, especially when you start talking about the NFL and using the Super Bowl logo. But we are going to create, in the midst of creating an ambassador program where anybody can sign up as an ambassador and receive some behind-the-scenes benefits of being part of the Super Bowl. Those levels will kind of vary depending on which level of participation, but we'll include invitation to meetings and media parties and our press conferences and our special events. So there'll be opportunities for individuals or companies to participate in the ambassador program. The Business Connect program, which you talked about, we would encourage everybody that's eligible for that to apply to be part of that program. What am I missing, Lisa?
And I think also you've also offered up the services, the resource of the host committee, that if you've got a piece of business that somebody approaches you with, they're happy to vet it out. They want this to be a relationship.
For this audience especially, we will serve as kind of really valuable for you, gatekeeper to what's an official NFL event and what might be a promoter that's just calling you to try and get your space on hold, hoping to do something there. You will get some fishy leads. Some rap celebrities lingerie party is going to call you and say, I'm doing a charity event for pediatric cancer. You call us, we'll help you find out if they've got history, if they pay their bills, and kind of help you vet those. So we would definitely encourage you guys to kind of keep us as a gatekeeper of all the official Super Bowl events, for sure.
CSR and legacy projects.
We have we'll have that $3 million worth of grant programs, and we're also going to manage an environmental program on behalf of the NFL. So anybody who has passion, funds, or expertise in the environmental space, as we're working throughout the community there, we're going to be doing youth programs, youth clinics that folks can help and volunteer with. And then finally, if you, at UNLV, you mentioned your mentorship program. We're designing now and about to launch a UNLV internship program where we recognize that Super Bowl has had the luxury in the past of being able to get an unlimited number of unpaid interns for a semester because there's no shortage of students that want to work on Super Bowl. But we also kind of recognize that those unpaid internships are opportunities for a very small group of folks that can afford to do an unpaid internship. So we came up with a program where we're actually going to partner with UNLV to pay not only an hourly fee for our interns, but we're paying the 3 hours of college tuition that they have to incur if they want to get the 3 hours of credit for their time. And a pretty nice little robust package of uniforms and IT and everything else we've got. We budgeted it for 1 semester, and we went to the NFL Foundation, so we've got this program designed to create opportunities for students who might not have to make a choice between working at Starbucks and interning for the Super Bowl. They liked the program so much they kicked in another $100,000, so we're now able to do 2 semesters. We have a third partner we're going to announce. They kicked up 100, and we have 3 semesters secured now. We're looking for a partner for that 4th and final semester so they can start as soon as 2 weeks from now. So that's if you know any qualified UNLV, in-state or out-of-state, graduate or undergraduate, budgeted for every possibility of type of UNLV intern to be part of the Super Bowl.
Is that the first time a program like that has existed that you're aware of?
The slave program, the internship programs in the past have always existed. This is the first time that I think that we've designed something specifically to remove that barrier of entry for an intern.
I think that's fantastic.
And yeah, I'm really proud of it and excited about it. Ask me how it goes in January, but we'll have anywhere from 12 to 24 interns at any given time. Not just working on sports management, but we'll have, our CFO Tom will be using them in the administration of our program. They'll be doing volunteer for the program. They'll be managing our environmental program, our community affairs stuff. So they get to touch a little bit of everything. They're going to be valuable parts of what we do. And everybody that I'm hiring right now, when we interview, we say, are you willing to teach? Because you have to be able to teach to take a job at those because of our internship program.
So, Lisa, let me ask you a question. I realize I didn't intend to put you on the spot because I know your focus is very specific to the LVCBA. But how, as a community, and how does the LVCBA take advantage of this, right? I mean, how do we leverage this event happening in our community and say, okay, we want everybody to know this is happening in Las Vegas? What is the LVCBA going to do? And potentially, how does it integrate even with those resort partners?
Oh, good.
That's a very good question. So yes, the mission of the LVCBA is to drive tourism. Jenny and I and Luncheon have built a 5-year business plan, and part of that is the community engagement. We are responsible for 40% of all of our jobs are directly related to hospitality. But guess what? I'm a Las Vegas citizen first, so while my job is to drive tourism, an awesome responsibility, I'm one of you every day. And I think it's very important that we learn from all of these, that we realize we don't know what we don't know. And as you go through these bids and you realize the legacy programs, when we look at other events, we figure out how can we layer that on top of each other. Steve Hill, you were in the conversation with Steve Hill and yourself and Mr. Ventrelli in LA at the Super Bowl. We were dealing with business connect. And that's just a silo of the NFL. The discussion is now taking place as to how do we do a citywide or statewide business connect program where it's one portal where you all can tap into that. We've already vetted these companies versus all of us doing it ourselves. We know Caesars has a purchasing and Engine Resorts has purchasing. We've all gone through it, but why are we all continuously reinventing the wheel when we're not pooling resources? So I think from our standpoint is how do we make sure the community is engaged? And maybe it is through the LVCBA lens, and it's us. Jenny's very involved in youth play football. That's a very local event. So me selfishly will be totally involved in the community, and I think it's really, Lisa, we met with you and see how we can break down some of these walls in the LVCBA and realize that maybe 10% or 15% of our responsibility should be X. But all of these events want some sort of legacy or CSR component, whether it's Las Vegas Bowl, going to visit the Children's Hospital. It's great media, but it really just showcases your destination in a different light. It's not just the strip. It's we are people. I'm sure you've all been asked which hotels you live in, which flight do you fly in every day. I still get asked that. We're real. We love our community, and I think it's very important that we as the LVCBA plant our flag in that and really lead the charge. And maybe sports is the breakthrough that we need to do that. And that opens up some avenues. I know that some of the conventions do it, whether it's Habitat for Humanity or Three Square, but why not put a few old verticals? And maybe we start with sports, because it probably is an easier barrier of entry than some of the conventions.
There's another tangible benefit to your question, and that is we're going to create an economic development committee for the Super Bowl host committee. And that's focused around using the Super Bowl actually being here that weekend to host decision makers from companies that are considering moving their businesses to Nevada. So 24 CEOs who get taken to see Summerlin and Henderson and the Strip and the game itself. Same thing with sporting events. There's no better time than when you're hosting a Super Bowl or F1 to bring in the business that you're trying to land. It's a little more behind the scenes. You guys won't see it happening. But I guarantee you 6 months or a year after Super Bowl, you're going to come back and say, hey, guess what? This company is moving here because of this great weekend and all the incentives and great things that Vegas has to offer. But we use it as an economic development mechanism.
So one of the things for the Final Four bid, surprisingly, they want to know what we're doing sustainability-wise. So we had to submit the current initiatives and then what the plan was for 4 years. So we worked with Clark County, we worked internally at the convention center, really building those out. But then one of it also was, how do you get UNLV in education? How do you make that the forefront of the Final Four? It's not the basketball, it's college athletics, it's the education. And part of that is a read to the Final Four type program. So we worked very closely with Dr. Nancy Lowe, who oversees the sports management program at UNLV. And we're looking at avenues as to how do we get that out there, right, the read to the Final Four bigger before. Well, MG Resorts is hosting the men's regional next year and has been kind enough to let the LVCBA come along for that ride. And our conversation with them is, why are we waiting 4, 5, 6 years until the Final Four comes to the destination? Why wouldn't we just do that now? Why not launch it during the men's regional and then keep it going with 5 college basketball conference tournaments we host every March? Or even March Madness weekend, which is our #1 destination, weekend of the destination. Why are we waiting for these legacy programs? Why not start them now? And then using sports as that vertical and then arm to get the community involved.
So Sam, there's a question that I have to ask you. And that is, what keeps you up at night? I mean, what's the big challenge? What's the thing that, we can say, well, and this is what we're going to do, and it's going to be great. I believe all those things, but there's nothing easy about putting on an event of this size. So what's keeping you up at night?
Besides me texting you at 11?
That's another conversation.
I'm scared to death of running out of Diet Coke at any given moment. So that's something that doesn't just keep me up at night, it keeps me up every day. I would say the biggest stress point I have right now has got to be post-game. This as a first-time Super Bowl here, we don't have a playbook to copy and paste from. We don't have transportation plans. We don't have game day staffing plans. Heck, when we did the bid, they hadn't even hosted a game at the stadium yet, so we did not, because of COVID, we did not know what staffing is going to cost at the stadium for Super Bowl Sunday, because usually there's a multiplier. You say if it costs this much to staff a Raiders game, it's going to cost 3 times that for a Super Bowl. We had no data to work with. I'm sure you appreciate that we had to create this all from scratch. So I can't copy a transportation plan or a volunteer plan. So there's a lot of these unknowns that we're having to create from scratch. But one of them that keeps me up at night is the post-game scenario. Is that we feel confident. We're already working through the question of how do we get all these people to the stadium on game day when it's not like a Raiders game. These are a different audience that's going to be expected to be driven there, dropped off, rideshare limos, black cars, buses, and shuttles. And to ask a Super Bowl attendee that you're going to have to walk across Hacienda and then go catch an Uber somewhere. A little more complicated than that. We think we can get everybody to the stadium just fine. But what I don't want to happen is that post-game, it's got to be just as seamless as getting there. Otherwise, they leave town saying, oh, it was a nightmare after the Super Bowl. I had to walk.
Look, I mean, we went, as the committee, we went to the one in Los Angeles, and it was a nightmare. It was wonderful. They did a lot of things right, beautiful stadium, all that kind of thing. It was a nightmare getting out of there. It all funneled into like one gate. It was like 4 inches wide, and everybody had to get out of the stadium.
And it's your last impression of the
And dark.
city. You leave there saying, no matter how perfect the week is, if the lights go out in the third quarter, that's your legacy. I live with that one. I still get teased about it. We won't let that one happen here. That was one that we did not have a play before, is if the power goes out. 2013 reference for those who may not have seen that game. Hopefully you didn't. So yeah, it's really what keeps me up at night is specifically post-game, but also just the fact that it's really a joy to be able to walk in the morning into the office with everybody and say, let's create a plan for X, Y, or Z, because it's not let's go on network and find our play in 2013. So let's create it from scratch. And it's opened up tons of opportunities and opened my eyes to a lot of things that we can do that have never been thought of. And that's why we've got new programs and new initiatives that we're working on, because it's not a copy paste.
We also went so far as to go the Monday after the airport experience. Like, this is our legacy of people leaving the destination. And we want to welcome them, and we want to thank them for their business. So everything that you guys are really putting into place is how do you give them such a fabulous experience? And then maybe you're open to this. I know that when we have the Super Bowl, there's garbage everywhere. It's just like a great impression. So anything you see as events that maybe don't jive with the experience, maybe reach out to Sam and myself so that we can keep a list of those so that we're mindful to make this, and Ms. People's goal is to make this the greatest Super Bowl ever. And I think it's that impression.
So obviously we're out of time, so I have one question. 10 seconds or less. What is success in terms of the Super Bowl? What does it look like? Go ahead.
Well, that's a really good question. I just think if we can get another better than perfect draft or better than Super Bowl and showcasing this destination on a global platform, like no other destination, it's the words of Steve Hill, category of one. I think the Super Bowl has the opportunity to break us through and really put the afterburners on and keep it supercharged, right? Leave everybody to death.
Sam?
I touched on it earlier. I think that I would like to see our measure of success is that every single stakeholder says on Monday, we can't wait for the Super Bowl to come back.
Yeah, that's great. Look, I want to thank, please help me in thanking Lisa and Sam. They got a lot of work ahead of them. Please, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. We have time for just one or two questions, I believe. But you have to know what you want to talk about. Got to talk fast. Anybody have any questions from the floor? Right here. Joanna.
When the RFP process opens up, how small of a tier qualifies and how large of a tier qualifies?
So that's...
Can you got to retrace the question in your answer?
Sure. She asked about when the Business Connect program and RFP process would start. In earnest, after the NFL gets through Super Bowl in Phoenix, and this spring we'll start seeing some activity on that. So I would say that you'll start to see seminars, workshops, and the online portal come online in probably March of 2023.
Any more questions? I don't see any hands. I don't hear my questions. Oh, here we go. Oh, my favorite rebel.
This question is that do you have anything that happened at the draft that will help you with this? Like, I mean, I didn't see anything that went wrong with the draft, but is there anything that will help you with the Super Bowl? Like, oh, we need to make sure we need to take care of that.
You know, I guess we should all be very proud of this. I think we wait and debate about every day for something to go wrong with the draft, and I think Metro nailed it when they sent out a tweet that said the only situation we have is men trying to run the 40-yard dash into our hamstring. And that was, so to your point, I think this community, we plan and we over-communicate and we sit in meeting rooms together, and I think we just need to keep that going. I think the draft was literally better than perfect.
Last question.
Just curious if historically you bring along suppliers that you use on a regular basis rather than using the locals.
Oh, myself and the host committee, absolutely not. We will engage local businesses, local providers, local employees. Everything will be a local business here. Now, to manage expectations, the NFL has about 3 or 4 of their major contractors that they bring in who then sub out to locals. So you'll see about 4 major providers in the NFL, Populous and Party Planners West, that manage from a 30,000-foot view, a transportation coordinator, but then they will use local transportation companies, local DMCs, local centerpiece providers, tables. So yes, very, very big emphasis on using local every chance possible.
I think it's for all of our events. I mean, we run these events not just for our tourism, but to create economic opportunities for the local businesses as well. I mean, again, this is our livelihood here.
All right, well, I know our panelists are on a timeline here. If you can stay, I'm sure we'll ask 1,000 questions of you until 11 o'clock tonight. And then you're going to send a text asking for answers that you can't provide yourself. But please, give a big round of applause for our panelists. I know after every LVHA event, I go to the office and say, hey, I learned this, or this was cool. My list is far too long as a result of today's panel discussion. So thank you very much, all 3 of you. I really appreciate your time. All right, hey, I want to pay the bills one more time. We have some people we want to thank again. It's going to be the Las Vegas Super Bowl host committee and the LVCVA. Again, I'm not sure we could survive without Lisa Motley's support and the help of the LVCVA as a whole. Caesars Entertainment for taking care of us today in this lovely venue. Encore Global for the AV production. By Design for the cool thing I walked under when I came in here today. Airstar for the core as well. AE and ES. I always call it AE and ES, but I have amusement exhibit and event services. So, Gary, I learned something today. I'm going to go with Gary. And of course, Dragonfly Portrait Design. Give me the flash. There you go. Thank you. Hey, next month we're going to take a little bit lighter because we like to take us to some of the coolest, newest places in Las Vegas, right? That's one of the benefits of being a member. Yeah, there's the theme again. I'll be outside to help you with any questions with your membership. Next month we're going to fly over Vegas so we can see some of the cool new things that are going on the Strip for all of our tourist friends to come and see. So you'll see an invitation coming out really soon. Really soon. And that's all I have right now. I know we ran a little bit late. You're going to see me and some of my fellow board members out front so we can answer all of your membership questions because by this time of year, you've already come twice. Again, I also want to thank our friends at Channel 8. They're wrapping up now, and I hope that you had your hair pretty, looking really good in the back because I know it's going to be on TV tonight. Everybody, have a great day.